Earthlings. There is a specter haunting the planet. Electromagnetism is life and death. The mysterious power of the lodestone acts itself out through the very magnets in the loudspeaker that now carry my voice to you. The Earth itself is a giant magnet whose fields of force suffuse every atom in your bodies. The ancients wondered how lodestones came to appear in our world. Perhaps they had been brought back by gods from the future to accelerate archaic man into the golden age. But that age has come and gone. Electromagnetic pulses of awful power enshroud our globe with a pall of poisonous emissions that have burnt, blighted, and stupefied all of Earth's creatures. Whole species extinct. Birds unable to migrate. Marine mammals beast themselves by the millions. Deadly gamma, X, and ultraviolet rays rush through gaping wounds in the ionosphere. The atmosphere is boiling. Sea levels are rising and coastal cities submerged. Human survivors shamble through the electronic miasma, their memories obliterated. Brothers and sisters, this is a Mayday call. Mayday! Electromagnetic alert! Alert! Alert!
Call me Boo-Boo. Not that I could care what name you use. Boo-Boos are doomed anyway. And this is my grandma, Amy Hacker. That is, this is her body, not really her. Basic law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be destroyed. And she's pure energy now. An angel of history in the space-time continuum. A ghost in the ether. A spectre
of the spectrum.
After eclipse, a wormhole to 57 at full throttle. In Science and Action is the message in the bottle. Those were her dying words. But what the fuck are they supposed to mean? Some sort of secret code? A key to survival? Or escape from this shithole? This reality? And this is a real story. Oh yeah, except some of it hasn't happened yet. Time is reversible, don't you know? And there's an infinite number of possible worlds. But this is the absolute worst one. First chance I get, I'm out of here.
Can't give out my real name, but my broadcast moniker is Yogi. For me, pseudonyms are a habit that I picked up during my years in the intelligence service. A period of my life that I'm not particularly proud of, but at this point I can't afford to indulge in guilt. Or anything else for that matter. Because this is war, and we're getting massacred. Yeah, some of it may be my fault, I suppose. And maybe some of it is my mother's fault. That's her. I mean, that's a picture of her. She's dead now, so I can give out her real name. It was Amy Hacker, believe it or not. She researched and developed transistors for use in radar systems, though one wouldn't necessarily know it from reading the history books. I mean, when we had history books. Well, that so-called radar defense technology got out of control, to say the least. And now it's being used against all of us. Radar offense. In the 50 years since a man-made satellite first punctured the ionosphere in 1957, we have absolutely shredded that delicate tissue of charged particles with every sort of artificial radio wave interference. And now it's being exploited by the military-industrial order as a stratospheric mirror for massive electromagnetic pulses in the high gigawatt range, the so-called monopolar pulse project. And tomorrow they'll bring their full complement of radiators online at full power.
In the beginning, there was radio. It was in hydrogen atoms, in lightning, in the Big Bang that propelled the universe into existence. That falling tone, that's a whistler. 100 lightning strikes per second here on Earth. Fountains of gamma and X-rays trumpeting up 80 miles a second, then ping-ponged back and forth between the poles. Yeah, the Earth's the natural radio. These sublime spirits actually carrying news of events on the sun, micro-pulsating space weather reports. But lately, if you
Slow recording of these transmissions down, you'll hear someone crying.
that fucked up pulse project interferes with the free ionospheric flow and so mutes my music of the spheres.
Little could Ma have imagined this ignoble end to the semiconductor boom when she took that job at RCA in 1955. Born in 1927, actually on the very day of the first television transmission, she demonstrated prodigious intellectual ability, excelled at school, graduated at the top of her Caltech class with the highest electrical engineering scores ever. She was committed to the development of technology to facilitate human communication. At least that's what she was told that her research was being used for. Her academic success actually landed her a spot on an early live broadcast television show, the only woman ever to appear on Science in Action.
You've just seen another in the fascinating television series, Science in Action.
At that point, she was already pregnant with me, product of her liaison with Jack Parsons, the founder of the Pasadena Jet Propulsion Lab and the dean of U.S. rocket science. Mr. Parsons, my father, was coincidentally deeply involved with Aleister Crowley's Ordo Templi Orientis, having been anointed an 8th degree Magister Templi of the L.A. Lodge by the Beast 666 himself. Through OTO, he became best friends with L. Ron Hubbard, and they shared a desert living compound and a business partnership. With Ma's naive cooperation, they undertook Crowley's commands to create a star child to usher in the new age. Well, it was me who they brought through that dimensional door. But by the time of my birth, L. Ron had embezzled their mutual funds and been exposed as an agent of U.S. naval intelligence. And Jack Parsons, my dad, had mysteriously perished in a fiery explosion at fulminated Mercury. NASA named a crater on the moon after him, right there between Verne and Schrodinger.
The Heavenly Choir you hear, telemetry from satellites, begins on October the 4th, 1957, with the simple birth cry of Soviet Union Sputnik 1.
Говорит Москва.
I was born on October 4th, 1957, on the day of the Sputnik launch. No complications, but within a couple of years, Ma started to get sick, though we could never diagnose it. Seems that there weren't really any safety protocols in labs during this experimental period of radar R&D. Some of the cathode ray tubes lacked the proper lead shielding, and the electron guns would shoot sort of scattershot. And Amy Hacker apparently spent too much time in the line of fire. This was happening during the time that she was pregnant with me, which may go a long way towards explaining what some have called the abnormal overdevelopment of my own nervous system. You see, I'm somewhat sensitive to other people's brainwaves. And my daughter Boo-Boo's a full-fledged telepath. Fucking A. And, oh yeah, we're both epileptics. In her case, the electrical brainstorms never cease.
But if you can imagine the Earth surrounded by its magnetic field, that Earth orbits in the atmosphere of the sun. The upper corona is a supersonic wind that's expanding and blows past the Earth. And as the solar wind sweeps along the sides of this magnetic field, it generates energy that it dumps into the tail, and then every once in a while, by some impulsive mechanism that we don't quite understand yet, that energy is dumped down the magnetic field lines into the Earth, and that constitutes the aurora. If one of these great impulses of energy comes into the Earth's ionosphere, it wipes out long-distance radio communications and causes power surges in the high-latitude power lines and this sort of thing. But more importantly, this magnetosphere is the environment in which we live. And we simply need to understand it.
Superheated stream. Non-aliens of electron volts animating atoms of atmospheric gases to give off such a gorgeous, greenish, glowish, this heavenly scream for the majestic gestures of undulating, utterly free energy. all too soon, a lacerated membrane, punctured and perforated, savage and torn asunder by the Order's geomagnetic arrogance.
Anyway, through the years, Ma's condition continued to worsen, leaving her in excruciating pain, unable to work and unable or unwilling, due to a justifiably paranoid mental state, to talk. Now, Boo Boo claims her grandmother uttered some enigmatic phrase just before she died, but I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know.
We're going to talk about a subject on Science in Action which is so great and so vast that at times it's a little bit difficult to get it all into mind. The subject is cosmography.
Well, that's right. Time is flowing. I'm recovering the past and bringing it up the future. Now we'll go on to about 65 million years.
5 million, and you're still going there. We have lots more tape.
Yes, we've got to get up to where man is, and we can. Here we go on to the age, and now I think we are at the present time.
That would be the Psychozoic.
A yard of this tape, which represents the time that man has been man on the surface of the earth, and we compare that 1 yard with about a mile of tape that we have down here representing the past that now is gone. But first I want to say again, Dr. Harrow, that the goal of the research and the teaching in cosmography is to help man find his place in the whole course of time, in the whole course of space, the great spread of space, in energy, in matter, in comprehension.
Now, we're quite fortunate in having as our guest on Science in Action
Benjamin Franklin, one of the leading electrical investigators of his time. It was a time when electricity was extremely popular. It was faddish. It was like hacking in the late 20th century, where lots of people would sit around their garages figuring out weird electrostatic machines. And here comes Franklin with this Promethean, revolutionary, democratic energy.
Perhaps we've inherited some mutant gene from Ma that's allowed us to survive the monopolar pulses, for better or worse. Perhaps now we carry the responsibility for redeeming these genetic gifts, like my ability to perform certain mental feats while still a child. I could multiply to 13 digits in my head and play dozens of chess games simultaneously. And of course, keeping up a running poetic recitation to entertain my mother during her long convalescence. She didn't talk much. And so the Central Intelligence Agency recruited me when I was still a 16-year-old student at Stanford University, working on the linear accelerator. In fact, the CIA had a front there called the Stanford Research Institute. They trained me as a spy and sent me to Russia, only way back then it was called the Soviet Union, to spearhead the agency's remote viewing project, as it was called. That is, agents didn't have to actually break into safes containing jet bomber blueprints, but instead use their clairvoyant abilities, their extrasensory perception, to scan them in place. Of course, it was the Soviets themselves who were in the lead in this area. They claimed they could record and play back any human thought. In fact, would retrieve thoughts from the past. It was there in Moscow that I encountered Marina Nikolaevna Prushakova,
Darling.
my enemy counterpart.
Привет, мой американский друг.
Despite our national differences, what was at first just telepathic flirting soon bloomed into a full-blown bilateral international affair.
How you doing, big fella?
Our daughter Boo Boo was born in 1984. I remember it was on the very day that the Macintosh computer was introduced to the world on a Super Bowl commercial. Boo Boo was 7 when the whole world sat aghast at the sickening televised spectacle of the 1991 U.S.-Iraq War. Finally, I fully understood the true genocidal potential of the U.S. smart bomb program. I decided to resign my agency commission as an act of conscience. I returned with wife and child to private avionics work in the States. Not that working for a defense contractor was really any less morally compromising. And Marina managed to sneak out some top-secret material on Dr. Thurman's later bioenergetic experiments. Only a few days before the former Soviet military intelligence files were looted by the Russian mafia. Hundreds of nuclear warheads stolen from the global black market.
Nothing. nothing, no such thing as matter. It is, in fact, no thing, nothing. Mass is simply physics' word for what happens when waves learn to store their inertia in circles, not lines. And as to the oh-so-convenient illusion of empty space, it's actually filled with an extremely energy-rich subatomic continuum. It's buzzing and boiling over with quarks and muons and mesons and bosons and baryons and kaons and tau leptons, ravishing in the ecstasy of charm, color, and flavor forces. And Grandma and me were like a couple of gluons. But now she's split off into the interstellar. She left without me.
Lockheed moved me to the head of their stealth lab, which was being beefed up in a big way as the U-2 deliveries from their skunk works were phasing down. We were supposed to work out the bugs in their outrageously overpriced fighter jet, which continued to fail every trial run. But it wasn't long before my scruples caught up with me. I stayed on board just long enough to access the plans to the low-radar profile prototypes just off the drawing boards. I was determined to do what I could to utilize the new radio wave technology for humanitarian needs. As naive as that sounds, especially now.
A single photon spends 50 million years on its torturous atom-by-atom migration from the raging thermonuclear crucible at the center of the sun to its stormy surface. From whence, finally liberated, it soars out on an ecstatically free flight to the ends of the universe, coasting in perfect grace forever and ever. Unless, of course, it happens to slam into this crummy little rock only 8 minutes out. How anticlimactic. Of all places, and I mean all, it gutter balls into this cosmic leper colony. A cesspool of squalor and pollution peopled by rejects from all the other star systems. Mewling parasites. Average human we got now is a dim, forgetful, weak, superstitious creature who, ruled by ignorance and fear, only knows to lash out reactively in gut impulse and greed, like the flock of mental cripples who flail against our trailer walls every night, utterly devoid of any creative impulse, any critical faculty, any ethical aptitude, total psychic amnesia. Good thing we can drown out their grunts with the contraband Corla Pandit tape. He's Dad's favorite.
Corla Pandit now presents his interpretation of the haunting strains and violent rhythm of Blue Tango.
You know, it's thanks to the stealth tech that our family was able to circuit through the West undetected for years, doing our best to build a popular resistance to what came to be called NEO, the New Electromagnetic Order. Near the end of the century, during those last days of any possible semblance of moral outrage and political opposition, we did manage to link up a small cell of dissidents, the League of the Just. In Mexican border towns, underground caves, even outlaw rocket launch pads, we networked with like-minded refuseniks who have kept in contact as remote correspondents and co-conspirators. While they were digging in for the duration, we continued to move like fugitives from town to town. Me setting up pirate radio workshops while Marina organized mass bicycle actions. But she got a little too visible. Of course, there were always too many spies around, and goons managed to get her. She was convicted of conspiring to incite the hail-bob of bike riots of 1999. They had to make an example of someone. So my brave little babushka has rotted away in a high-tech prison for the last 8 years. Marina was among the first wave of convicts to be locked up in the private prisons that have proliferated just across the Mexican border since the end of the 20th century. With the redoubling U.S. prison population overflowing governmental penal facilities, private multinationals jumped in to capitalize on the state's security needs. The new owners cover their costs by putting the inmates to work. The cruel irony is that my wife is now conscripted into the same enemy detection technology that so compromised my mother, assembling night vision equipment for the Department of Defense.
Scientifically impossible to accurately determine the position of an electron within a metal conductor. In fact, it's bions that tell the electron where to go. And bions are made of pure thought.
Brilliant. Thoughts leave my brain in 9-nanometer beams and beam straight to the scintillating center of the Milky Way in a twinkling.
That throbbing quasar in space called the Big Burster is really the foaming chaos of thought frothing at 100 million degrees Fahrenheit around the rim of a white hole. The cosmos receives every thought, good or bad, and grants it life and sends it back to its owner. Like all the film producers who've thought that monsters will be haunted now by their own creations. King Kong and the gremlins will be real. Hate thought will come back as real gargoyles to haunt those who have hated. All the phantasmagoria screaming from the sky, and people fizzing, fritzing, and frazzling as their foul thoughts are returned. The crawlies and monsters will come back to kill their masters.
And what of our pretty little daughter? Another casualty of the Spectrum Wars? Yes, too many neurons do make for short-circuiting, but she's a singularity for sure. A regular breakdown in the laws of physics. What you'd call an idiot savant, huh? Like she can remember precise details from every scene of every movie she's ever watched. And her special powers somehow enable her to move around during the full-on electromagnetic day while all the zombies are hiding in their caves. The downside is that her psychological state is also subject to fluctuation. The question of probability, like electrons making quantum leaps among valence shells. I think of her as a fuzzy cloud of energy. Well, negative energy. That's why we call her Boo-Boo.
Well, by no odd coincidence, we have as our guest on the program Captain Charles Yeager, who has flown higher, more than 20 miles, and flown faster than any other man. And why don't we step over here and see some of this equipment that he uses? How are you there, Major? How's it? I called you Captain, Miss Major. Excuse me. I'm very, very sorry.
Quite all right.
We're interested in this piece of equipment. What is it? How does it work? And what does it do?
Well, fortunate enough, people like you all are interested enough in aviation medicine to stay quite a bit ahead of the research.
Can our bodies withstand the terrific effects of hurtling through space at, say, 25,000 miles per hour?
Today, the people of our country have yet to be convinced that our present danger is a very real one. While a hostile force overseas grows stronger every day. In other words, then, radar can only warn us. It may keep us from a surprise attack, but on the other hand, if an attack does come, every one of us has to be ready to do the thing that we will need to do. That's exactly right.
General Andrew, I want to thank you for coming to Science in Action to tell us about these matters.
Thank you, Dr. Earl. Dr. Harold, I've enjoyed it very much.
I'll be back in just a moment with the Animal of the Week.
Samuel Morse, like a lot of the great inventors of the 19th century, was not necessarily the most brilliant of men, but a great PR guy. His idea was you take electricity, you run it through a wire, and you'll be able to transmit intelligence. We're moving from the realm of electricity as energy to electricity as information. And it was greeted at the time with a tremendous millennialist impulse. The moment we crack open the social imaginary with a new kind of communications technology, all these ghosts and utopias rush in. Congressmen were talking about annihilating space and time and creating this magical world where commerce would happen instantaneously and everyone would be educated and democracy would happen instantaneously. The celestial telegraphers, as they called themselves, the Fox sisters, inspired probably by the telegraph, had this idea of communicating back to the spirit. So when the spirit started thumping around, they would knock back. One of the most famous people who was invoked in all these sort of spiritualist seances in the 1860s was Benjamin Franklin.
The Order implants a clone of its own brain in all the star children it can find to block out mental reception of solar vibrations. This clone gives me horrific high-speed violent vision, hideously vivid, chronic sleeplessness, hearing voices, ugly faces floating, unbearable toothache on teeth that have nothing wrong with them. My feelings are attracting that detrimental electricity. Meanwhile, my white dwarf of a dad carries on with his hapless efforts to raise the dead with his pitifully feeble transverse wave technology. That went out with rotary phone. Yes, go ahead, Don Quixote, with the do-it-yourself camera remote. On your relentless noon to midnight rants, do tell of the prehistory of telepathy.
The time, March 1953. The scene, Las Vegas, as the caravan sets out for the site of AEC's Nevada Proving Grounds. There, the test will be held in connection with a shot in the Atomic Energy Commission's developmental series. Yucca Flat, a barren area of desert, sagebrush and Joshua trees, now suddenly comes alive with activity.
So we ended up in this area a couple of years back. Actually an old nuclear test site and bombing range in the suburbs of Las Vegas. But it's on the Pacific coastline now. Actually the Gulf of California, due to the higher sea level. The shoreline, the salt water's been crystallized by the pulses. Last atomic test was just 15 years ago in 1992, so the ground's still a bit hot, but that keeps the backpackers out of here. We've settled into the biosphere, our Airstream trailer that we hijacked from a Good Sam caravan. But I spend most of my time in this bunker, broadcasting exposés on electromagnetic imperialism. Our stealth shield has kept our tiny station hidden until now, but when the fucking monopolar pulse goes to full power tomorrow, all countermeasures will be awash.
It is our pleasure to present to you Corla Pandit.
Want some spam, Boo-Boo? Not exactly vegetarian, but the protein might help you figure out that riddle.
No, but concentrating on Grandma's photo might focus my energies. The zombies are at it again.
Pump up the volume, Corla.
I heard you say that the submarine was one of man's greatest inventions. It might be that, and the most evil one, too.
I know one of his favorite subjects is the submarine of the future, and perhaps Admiral Nimitz can give us an idea on the Nautilus mural here, just what this means.
Well, Earl, you see here one of the deadliest submarines of all time, the atomic-powered USS Nautilus. But the submarine with this atomic-powered plant will give us an indication of how atomic energy can be used for purposes of peace.
Well, that's certainly putting it very pointedly, Admiral Nimitz.
In this workshop, at many of his inventions, his creative concepts were born, such as a kite, a strange pastime for a man in his 50s.
Why am I flying a kite? Sounds crazy, but someday men will fly over the earth at enormous speeds, hundreds of miles an hour.
And on one magic afternoon, June 2nd, 1875...
Mr. Watson, what did you do?
Well, nothing really. The transmitter reed stuck. I plugged it like this to pry it loose.
Mr. Watson, I heard that sound twang on my receiver. Mr. Watson, do it again.
The electromagnetic imaginary, this weird cluster of ideas that are established with spiritualism and go back to mesmerism, also play an incredibly important role sort of in the background, in the subliminal undercurrents of the invention of the telephone.
Ahoy, Mr. Watson. Are you there?
And Thomas Watson, Bell's famous assistant, Watson, come here, from the movie, also was a spiritualist and was convinced that at certain points the spirits were aiding in this new discovery. What the wires were doing were picking up various sorts of strange noises that today we call spherics, these weird cracklings and booms and thunderings on the line. Watson, this kind of odd spiritualist, techno-geek hacker, was one of the first people to listen to noise. He thought maybe they were signals from another planet. Who knew? Who knew what signals were coming through the ether?
Mr. Watson! I heard it! Every word over the wire!
You heard what I said?
Distinctly. Mr. Watson, come here. I want you.
The present age of this universe is 13 billion years. And that is a very unlucky number. Of course, there's countless other parallel universes continually being born in big bangs and eventually dying out in big crunches. Each world with its own set of physical constants that rise by chance from its fireball. On Earth, these physical laws have been exploited by a small minority of men to exercise exclusive control over all electromagnetic emissions. And now, Neil's Pulse Project will bounce back enough radiant energy to bolt erase the brain of every living thing, zapped like microwave popcorn. What is to be done?
That's the power of the energy in you.
I could have the whole cosmos to cavort in. Go forward with the seal of the sun on my forehead. But no. Instead, I'm stuck in the circle of hell, serving a seemingly interminable life sentence, slogging through the electronic sludge and warding off the psychic pest.
What will happen if I try to bring this tail out here so we can show that he has a very prehensile tail? Well, you certainly know how to handle that animal. Now, there he goes. If you don't mind, I'll stand over to this side. Now, Benny, if you come back around here.
He doesn't like to have his tail touched.
I can see where that did disrupt something. He has a prehensile tail, though, and he uses that so that he normally comes down a tree head first. He seems to be a little bit rambunctious. Of course, Bendy's never been on television before. That's certainly a beautiful animal. And, well, that's the first Binderong's ever been on television. So, Pete, I want to say thanks to you for bringing him over to us, and I hope you have good luck in his training in the future. Look at that wonderful tail.
All right now after we
big fella. Well, thanks very much, and we'll look forward to seeing him some other future time. We hope that you'll plan to be with us on our next program. Thanks a lot.
The first words I spoke in the original phonograph. A little piece of practical poetry. Mary had a little lamb, its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go.
Mr. Edison develops the phonograph. He develops the electric light. His researches lead to the early development of motion pictures. Edison, like many of these entrepreneurs, tinkerers, geeks, hackers, was obsessed with this spiritualist connection. Edison also believed that he could use the phonograph to be able to communicate and pick up the spirits of the dead radiating through this electromagnetic astral substance.
Yes. As I sit here in my laboratory in Orange, New Jersey, talking to you, my friends of the National Electric Light Association.
We've managed to stay alive through hunting and gathering, actually obsessively scavenging, then bartering. Of course, there's no such thing as cash anymore, but there are plenty of perfectly good bombs still half buried out there. Duds when they first were dropped, but that can be fixed, you know. We've been able to trade up, so to speak, and just last month closed a deal with the Zapatistas. They were able to recover the plutonium power plant from that Disney spy satellite that fell out of the sky into Chiapas. Luckily, there was no explosion. Landed in a muddy lake bed. They use old Indian trading routes to move the P-238 pellets north into this no-man's land to swap for our conventional ordnance. It's a good trade. Occasionally, we're able to resupply their defense efforts against NAFTA forces this way.
Los grandes medios de comunicación, los grandes monstruos de la industria de la televisión, parece empeñada en buena parte en tratar de presentar un mundo virtual, porque finalmente lo que va a ocurrir cuando este mundo virtual se choque en imágenes, en palabras, en comunicación digital, en una posibilidad de guardar la verdad, mantenerla y difundirla, un poco a la imagen del libro de Fahrenheit 451, donde un grupo de gente se dedica a aprenderse los libros de memoria para que no, si los destruye, no se pierdan.
They've managed to maintain their autonomy for many years now, and we need the plutonium isotopes for our own experiments with fusion energy, based on Farnsworth's original research. We gotta be careful, though. Solar's not an option for us. The panels would give away our bunker from the air. Meanwhile, we've scavenged an amp and hooked up an antenna to the output jack of one of those old VCRs and are pumping out picture and sound on Channel 3, all across this wasteland. We are going forward with our media archaeology mission to retrieve, to report, to revolt.
TV Tesla, resistance to the new electromagnetic order.
Research continued in the late 40s when psychoanalyst Wilhelm Reich set up a private research park, codenamed Phoenix, just east of here. As in the case of Tesla's Colorado Springs laboratory, Dr. Reich found the atmospheric conditions of the western U.S. extremely conducive to the etheric flow. So Reich sent up balsa wood boxes of oscillators to break up violent thunderstorms and the deadly orgone radiation that he claimed they contained, and to tune the weather front to provide the gentle rainfall that the desert needed. His cloud-busting gun, as he called it, was later installed at Organon, his educational and manufacturing base in Maine, not far from Philo Farnsworth's. Like his visionary ideas themselves, scores of Reich's radiosonde balloons bobbed and floated along the air currents of the Southwest for years. One went down in Roswell in 1947 and created a bit of a stir. The government later claimed it was theirs in order to cover up Reich's project, even though their own balloon program didn't start till '53. The feds added a pulse and cycle function to the good doctor's original transmitter design, which was then turned against the civilian population on the ground below.
For it is these monsters which rise 19 miles and attain diameters of 100 feet that have been mistaken for the apparitions called flying saucers. At great altitudes, they tell us, these elongated enormities flatten out like plates. Mystery ended.
Reich's books were burnt and he was thrown into Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary, where he died in 1957. On the day of my own birth, by the way. Not that I believe in reincarnation or anything.
Let's have a moment for the heroes and martyrs of the electromagnetic revolution.
This is Eric Davis, and I've got some important information. The constant battle that has been fought between the forces that want to use the spectrum and various electrical technologies to shut down the human imagination and keep us under control, and then those forces that are always trying to open up the new possibilities of the technical sphere and the electric energies that run through it. One great figure of this is Wilhelm Reich, who came up with the notion of the orgone, which in many ways was the kind of energy body that Mesmer was interacting with and tweaking. It was a kind of universal radiating field, an erotic energy, an energy of creativity and life force.
Our program subject is a bit difficult to believe. We are going to talk about invisible rays that have the property of revealing invisible objects.
When Professor Röntgen discovered the X-rays in 1895, he was certainly not looking for anything of the sort. He was experimenting in a darkened room with certain vacuum tubes and accidentally made this notable discovery.
Has ever possessed. Power to heal, power to destroy.
Tesla's most strange and magnificent period occurred just on the edge of the 20th century, at the height of fin de siècle expectation and dread. In Colorado Springs, he became the first Promethean to actually generate lightning, creating bolts that were hundreds of feet long. Tesla conceived of wireless transmission well before Marconi.
Now we must liberate thought. We must set it free of limitations that space and time impose on it. Now and in future centuries. Here on Earth and thousands of light years into the unknown.
But Tesla also began picking up strange signals that he thought came from Mars.
I recorded certain electrical impulses of unknown origin, and these were repeated at constantly timed intervals. It's possible they were a kind of signal from space.
And did you in turn send them a message?
Ask the Martians that question.
But you did send some sort of signal.
A signal which might not be received for 1,000,000 years.
Tesla didn't want to just use wireless to transmit information, but to transmit power itself. In order to try to realize his plans, Tesla was always scrambling for money. And he got a big load of cash from J.P. Morgan. And with that, he was trying to set up a magnifying tower, he called it, on Long Island. And it would be the first great tower that would be able to broadcast electrical power.
Commodore, we send energy, all energy, to the outer shell of the Earth, the ionosphere. Energy from the sea, the wind, energy from the sun. We no longer need to burn or destroy anything. We simply take what already exists and put it to our use in unlimited quantities.
Work on the tower began, but then Morgan cut off the flows of cash.
Pictures and voices moving through the air without wires. Does he really want me to swallow that?
And if we drop the sound boom down, I think we can hear the sound that it will make as I start to bend this now. And you'll hear the planes, in other words, the crystals, rearranging themselves. Keep pulling down to...
In 1958, Livermore Labs' father of the H-bomb, Dr. Edward Teller, traveled all the way to the Arctic Circle with a proposal to blast a chunk of the Alaskan coastline off the map by detonating 6 thermonuclear bombs under Cape Thompson. The purpose of this Project Chariot was to dig a harbor post-haste, even though native Inupiat Indians dwelt a mere 30 miles from ground zero.
Plowshare envisages many uses for nuclear explosives, including applications in nuclear excavation, mining, production of useful isotopes, and power. Nuclear excavation is, however, the most straightforward application and the nearest to practical usage.
Now we know from hundreds of explosions we carried out, nuclear explosions, we carried out underground, that the Earth can contain radioactivity indefinitely, under the right conditions.
Northwest of Las Vegas. It may resemble photos of the moon's surface, but actually, each one of those craters was formed by an underground nuclear detonation.
A similar plan to create a second canal across the Central American Isthmus was also considered and also ultimately tabled. But in the same year, Project Argus did in fact go forward with the explosion of 3 separate atomic devices at 13,000 miles up to probe the effects of nuclear blasts on the Earth's geomagnetic field. Atomic particles spiraled around the sky in a swirling curtain of artificial radiation that shot through and deformed the natural Van Allen belts. Project Starfish placed a thermonuclear warhead in an even higher altitude in the Van Allens near the North Magnetic Pole to produce an artificial layer of Earth-circling ions to facilitate over-the-horizon radar tracking vis-a-vis the USSR. The resultant dielectric shock caused blackouts across North America. In 1962's Project Westford, military engineers injected a telecommunications shield of 350,000 copper needles into an enormous section of the ionosphere to control its dynamic ion flux. Better RF wave reflectance was supposed to improve radar reception. The 8.5 Alaska earthquake soon followed.
This is Phil Pateris transmitting to you live from geostationary orbit 200 miles above the surface of the Earth with another informational dispatch on our continuing struggle against the new electromagnetic order.
In the 1970s, there were the Super Excalibur, Sleeping Beauty, the neutron bomb. With the $30 billion Star Wars initiative of the 1980s, it was again Edward Teller who upped the ante on the militarization of space. Rendering clunky fission devices nearly obsolete, a new class of special radiant energy weapons was advanced. Exotic particle beam cannon that, lighter weight and targetable, could easily be fired at the flick of a switch. Each cumulative development, a further step towards the scalar wave conjugate phase devices of the new millennium.
They condemned Grandma to a slow death and imprisoned Mom for the crime of not driving a car. But I'm still free, and the only living being who has the power to withstand their mind-numbing beams. Screw their Sea-Alt satellites. To hell with their helicopters. I'll walk through walls to trash their hideous science project.
This is a communique. I'm Jesse Drew. I'm based here in a colonia outside of Juarez, Mexico. I'm currently a fugitive from the United States because of my alleged sabotage of the North American military command and control computer system. In the aftermath of NAFTA, most U.S. electronic plants moved here, where they could exploit cheap labor and dump their toxic waste. I'm set up here in a maquiladora industrial waste site, amid acres of discarded computer parts and electronic components. I reclaim these parts and assemble electronic tools for our resistance.
As I drop this down, I begin to pick up other magnets, polymerization, until we have a total, some 13, and if we're lucky, it may stand upright.
Oh, I think that's because you had 13, Earl.
the whole thing just appeared to Mr. Tesla. Some kind of vision.
It was really more like a flash of lightning.
At that time, the only electrical power came from the direct current invented by Edison, and Edison was the great lord. Tesla came to America wanting to show the great man his invention. Once Westinghouse had accepted Tesla's design for the development of alternating current, a great war of the currents occurred between Tesla's model and Edison's direct current model. This battle was played out on a very public stage. It was a spectacle.
That is alternating current.
One of the most spectacular things the two rival camps would do would be to electrocute animals with each other's systems. In fact, Edison was the first person to electrocute a condemned man using, of course, Tesla's system. Tesla's techno-utopian vision had a definite dark side. As he aged and grew more destitute and eccentric, he was a germ freak long before Howard Hughes. He came up with these visions of violence and war that were remarkably prophetic. He anticipated the military use of radar. He also imagined the robotic weapons, heat rays, mind rays. He possessed the key to crack the earth in half like an apple by exploiting its resonant frequency, the same way that an opera singer can sing a note and shatter a glass. By imagining that we direct energy with enormous power, Tesla anticipates the whole realm of Star Wars. Morgan went on to found General Electric, bringing Edison, the great rival of Tesla, under his wing.
Edison has had to join up with General Electric, but they won't swallow us up, Nick.
Tesla ended up dying a destitute, penniless man.
Tell him goodbye.
The father of modern mind control, Dr. Jose Delgado, pioneered the stimulceiver technology to stop a charging bull by the remotely controlled electrical stimulation of its brain.
Delgado has shown that the behavior of monkeys can be altered using low-power, pulsating magnetic fields.
As CIA director, Richard Helms advocated for telemetry as an effective form of low-intensity warfare through the transmission of strategic subliminal messages to enemy populations.
Disturbance in the visual system could markedly influence the operations of a fighter pilot, a helicopter pilot, or even a simple an aberration in the visual field as making everyone seeing double, or everyone having the visual field jitter like a poorly adjusted television screen.
At Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, another RF weapons concept is nicknamed the brain bomb. The brain bomb would focus a nuclear blast into a huge pulse of low-frequency RF energy that would stun huge numbers of troops.
Psionic warfare front companies proliferated, providing experimental data on such new disciplines as biocybernetics, psychotechnology research, behavioral neuropsychiatry, and radio-hypnotic intracerebral control. They detailed the multiple effects of certain waveforms on the ability to concentrate, emotional well-being, heartbeat, hearing, cellular metabolism, menstruation, sperm count, and emissions around the 10 Hz alpha rhythm were found to cause brain waves to vibrate sympathetically in the famous frequency following response.
A method and apparatus for altering a region of the Earth's atmosphere.
Basic concept is to build a very large antenna, 30 to 40 miles square, then to utilize a large amount of power, 1 billion watts or more.
The invention would use an Earth-based power source to create electromagnetic radio waves and focus them way up in the atmosphere. Dr. Eastland says the invention could steer jet streams, but could also be used to disrupt communications all over the world.
You would actually push a portion of the atmosphere away from the Earth. You know, sunspots or solar flares will disrupt communications badly. This would do that through basically the same kind of mechanism.
Changing the Earth's atmosphere, disrupting communications all over the world. I mean, it sounds like something out of Jules Verne.
Nothing in this is science fiction. It is all technology that is known.
And now they're firing beams of 10 billion electron volts into target areas in the ionosphere. The extra-large array of 180 scalar wave antennae astride the magnetic pole is fired in sequence. Owing to the natural amperage already flowing through the Earth's energy shell, chosen zones are readily boiled into a hyperactive plasma of electron-cyclotron resonance. Once the selected section of the upper atmosphere has been overamped and shifted in space, it serves as an electronic lens or mirror for the gigawatts of power then pulsed up. Though the original objective was tracking deep sea subs, the Pulse project has, surprise, broadened its mission to include the detection of underground installations, disruption of enemy communications, the disabling of satellites and other space vehicles, remote detonation of warheads, and the wireless delivery of power to forward areas of battle theaters. And of course now there's this hemispheric weather control business. The evacuation of atmospheric regions, the focusing of sunlight on specific locales, the prediction and triggering of earthquakes, not to mention the human costs. Breakdown of blood-brain barrier, dementia, memory loss, and the radical deterioration of cognitive abilities, which they call brain training. Mars lost its atmosphere. Now we're losing ours. The planet can simply not tolerate these gigawatt probes. As we rotate within our electronic envelope, the beam will slice across the Earth's donut-shaped spool of geomagnetic lines, dissonantly slashing through the harp strings of planetary polarization.
Whoa! Holy shit! Who turned out the lights? It's a solar eclipse. After eclipse, a wormhole to 57 at full throttle. In Science in Action is the message in the bottle. That's it! Science in Action was that TV show that Grandma was on. She must have encoded a secret message for future generations into the airwaves of 1957. Her cipher is still out there floating on the sea of time. Talk about broadcasting.
What's up, Boo-Boo?
Dad, you won't believe this, but long ago, Grandma had the foresight to encrypt some kind of secret into the soundtrack of one of her TV shows. It just may be the key to our survival.
You've been hearing voices again, Boo-Boo. I should massage your temples with magnets, like Mesmer used to do. And even if it were true, what good would that do us now?
You old dinosaur, don't you know that since the Big Bang, all time is concretely expressed in the spatial extension of the universe? Looking out into space is looking back in time. So I'm going out there, surfing the waves of electric history to retrieve the flotsam.
But those radio waves are propagating out at the speed of light. That's 666 million miles an hour. And they've got a 50-year head start. You'll never be able to overtake them.
But I'll have to take the shortcut. You know, the wormhole bit.
Yeah, but where are we going to find a wormhole?
Due to the peculiar alignment of heavenly bodies, a solar eclipse sometimes precipitates a temporary opening in the space-time continuum. Electrogravitational afterimage. Duh. I'll overhaul the trailer and take off before the temporal window closes. They don't call it an airstream for nothing. I'll cruise to the time zones, tuning through the relic radiation.
But you'll get lost in all that time junk, running into all sorts of scrambled sidebands, like a radio slightly off station, ghost frequencies. So, we'll transmit in-flight course corrections for your navigation across the Sea of Time.
All right already. I'm quit customizing that tin can and hot rodding it right out of this local gravity well.
Stand by for action. The countdown for the launch is now at T-minus 5 minutes and counting. All elements
of the MA8 mission at this time are in a go condition.
Check it out, Daddy-O.
Wow. Not a bad retrofit, Boo-Boo. Is it an automatic? And a cherry tuck and roll job to boot.
Liberated that gear from a mothballed B-52.
In you go, you little chrononaut.
Okay, since I'll be directly interfacing the past on the big screen, I'll use the rear view for updates from the future. Time's reversible, don't you know?
Off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sky. Bye-bye, Boo-Boo.
Later, Pops. Now to deterritorialize. Let's take this Wayback Machine to 1957 at full throttle.
He's on her way.
Good going, Boo-Boo. This is TVT Mission Control for your in-flight updates. Let's check your superluminal reception of our Earth-based analysts. Eric Davis coming to you from deep within the planet run underground by enemies of his free energy physics.
Check.
Phil Pateris, a.k.a. Captain Midnight, forced to take orbital flight after jamming a satellite broadcast with his own video cut-ups.
Check.
And Jesse Drew, computer cryptologist on the electronic frontier, now hacking into U.S. military operating systems.
Shit! Asteroids! Sure of using that? Time is reversible, don't you know? What? An iceberg?
Iceberg! Dead ahead, sir!
Iceberg, dead ahead, sir.
On one night in April 1912, the Titanic was hit by an iceberg, so they say. Of course, the media has always been best at broadcasting disasters. The person who was on hand at the American Marconi studios was young David Sarnoff, who sat down and proceeded to telegraph the news of the Titanic to the rest of the country. It was through his performance during the Titanic disaster that he came to the attention of the great Marconi himself, who took David Sarnoff under his wing, and in effect, David Sarnoff became the protege of Marconi. He even began to dress like Marconi. Marconi was dealing with point-to-point communication, one telegraph station to another, one wireless station to another. It was Sarnoff who evolved the concept of what we now call broadcasting, which is one point to many.
My daughter's going all the way out to the edge of the goddamn universe so she can get a picture of this. We got her moving faster than the speed of sound, faster than light. She's going to come on back and she's going to see a sequence of pictures all the way back of how we got into this goddamn situation. This is media archaeology.
During World War I, all radio operations were taken over by the U.S. Navy. After World War I, the Navy fought to maintain its control of radio,
This was protested by organizations of independent and amateur radio operators. Monopoly control over radio broadcasting was assumed by a corporate consortium consisting of AT&T, General Electric, Westinghouse, and United Fruit. This group became known as RCA. Independent and non-profit broadcasters, which originally were the majority of broadcasters, were relegated to the left end of the spectrum. Radio was to be a commercial medium dominated by U.S. multinational capital.
The American Marconi Company begat RCA. RCA begat the National Broadcasting Company, the first national radio network, headed by David Sarnoff. Hardly anybody knows his name, but Edwin Howard Armstrong invented FM radio. He amazed people with the clarity of his new invention. It threatened AM radio. And when the time came for the FCC to set the bandwidth for FM, David Sarnoff made sure that the officially sanctioned FM bandwidth was outside of the bandwidth that Armstrong was using. Armstrong was a beaten man, and eventually he committed suicide by jumping out of a window.
Paramount News takes you behind the scenes where television is being brought to perfection. Philo T. Farnsworth, pioneer in the development of television.
Television is about to emerge from the laboratory to bring into your home news, entertainment, and material of educational value.
Popular Science presents a backstage preview of television, the newest miracle of modern electrical engineering. Technicians in the Farnsworth Philadelphia laboratories have helped to make television, the dazzling dream of the decade, a practical reality today. Mr. Philo T. Farnsworth, shown at the right, is working on the image dissector tube, a photoelectric camera tube of his own invention that distinguishes his system of television from others.
In 1927, Philo Farnsworth moved to San Francisco and began developing in his lab on Green Street the first all-electronic television system. This was Farnsworth's ideal. This was his dream. David Sarnoff's intention was to do to Philo Farnsworth what David Sarnoff had done to Edwin Howard Armstrong 10 years before.
And for nearly 30 years, two men, two pioneers, shared this dream of television. Dr. Vladimir Zworyk, famed inventor, and David Sarnoff, RCA board chairman. Together, they created, developed, and introduced America's first all-electronic television system.
One way he did this was to send a Russian scientist named Vladimir Zworyk to San Francisco to check out Farnsworth. So Zworyk hung out for a few days, and then he went back to New York, reported to Sarnoff, and within months, RCA came out with a new device that looked mysteriously like Farnsworth's image dissector tube.
Television, introduced by David Sarnoff.
It is fitting that the greatest World's Fair in history should be the scene for the first regular public television program service in the history of our country. A new art and a new industry is here.
Come, let's travel into the future in which all of us are tremendously interested, because that is where we are going to spend the rest of our lives.
This picture was recorded and synchronized with sound in the General Electric Company's House of Magic at Schenectady, New York.
True, each of us may have different ideas as to what that future will be, but every forward outlook reminds us that all the highways of all research and all communication,
the spectacle of progress,
all the activities of science, lead us onward to better methods of doing things.
Research went forward at war tempo, but directed towards military advances. Electronic scientists and engineers developed radar, sonar for submarine detection, and sniper scopes that made it possible to see a target in darkness.
It is here with the nation's press looking on that this cloud is born.
19, 20. What and there it is, that brilliant flash, that white light that precedes the explosion of the atomic bomb number 17. That brilliant white flash, almost blinding.
We had a report from the telephone company that fed the picture from Los Angeles to where we brought it, all the way across the country. That reception was perfect all the way through, and we're delighted about it, of course.
Now, we're not going to identify this contestant panel. We will call him simply Dr. X. Now, Doctor, if you will whisper your secret to me, we will show it at the same time to the folks out there.
Is this some kind of a machine that might be painful when it's used?
Yeah, sometimes it's most painful.
This is Dr. Philo T. Farnsworth, who invented electronic television.
Doctor, truthfully, are you sorry?
Let's go from the past, sir, the not too recent past, to the future. What are you working on now?
Well, in television, we're attempting first to make better utilization of the bandwidth, because we think we can eventually get in excess of 2,000 lines instead of 525. Visual display will be just a screen. Then we hope for memory so that the picture will be just as it's pasted on there. There's part of the scene that you can remember, and you practically have a memory file of it, and simplified reduction of it.
He's also working in nuclear fusion, and some of the things he says that are going to happen, we're going to heat our homes, we're going to cool our homes, we will cook, we will run our automobiles, all transportation by nuclear fusion, and the future is unlimited.
True. Electronics really has had several offspring as a science and an art. One of them is nucleonics, and in the field that I'm essentially interested in now, doing most of my work, is the taming of the H-bomb, hydrogen fusion.
Unfortunately, television being what it is, it's your baby and we're out of time. So here are your Winston, sir, the money that you won, and our eternal gratitude. I'd be out of work if it weren't for you. Thank you very much.
Travel into the future with Buzz Corey, Commander-in-Chief.
Space Patrollers, you're about to witness the unveiling of a top secret, a scientific marvel that will take you through all space and time, the rocket cockpit. Every man in the Space Patrol will have a ship capable of exceeding the speed of light, traveling distant stars, and even going back into the past.
Just think, it was about 1,000 years ago that the first space flight was made.
From Earth to the moon.
Hey, with this rocket cockpit ship, we can actually go back into the past. And we could see that flight. We could go right back to Earth in the middle of the New Mexico desert in the year 1956, and we could see the flight.
No, 1966.
No, I remember my history all right. It was October 23rd, 1956.
Attention. Lots of you boys and girls have written me about the sleek lines of my plane. The Silver Dart. It also contains an amazing mystery device. So secret, I can't show it.
Corla, imagine meeting you out here.
The dews of the evening, most carefully shunned, those tears of the sky for the loss of the sun.
Loss of the sun?
Carla Pandit couldn't bring you under his spell. There was the genteel host of Adventures in Hypnotism.
I hope this will be of interest to you. Torgy, close your eyes, keep asleep, completely relaxed. All right, I'm just taking your earphones off.
Floating graveyards of dead media.
Ha! That's a rich one. Oh, boy. Humbug. Get out of here.
When the moon hits you high like a big beat to fly, that's amore. When the world seems to shine like you've had too much wine, that's amore. Bells will ring, ting-a-ling-a-ling, ting-a-ling-a-ling, and you'll sing beneath the bells. Hey! Dippy-dippy-day like a gate.
He's been shot. He's been shot. Lee Oswald has been shot. Absolute panic.
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Telegraphy showed the general the way, took infant radio and taught it to pay, and he began what is now RCA. That's why the gentleman is a champ.
On the other hand, Farnsworth's life was ruined. His Farnsworth Television Company was bought by IT&T, and he became an employee of IT&T. The strain of his battles with RCA got to him. Farnsworth lapsed into depression in his later years. He went into mental institutions, and he died in 1971. Ironically, the same year that David Sarnoff died.
The future of our television story encompasses the entire Earth. Into every one of our living rooms can come a human eye view of the world with the immediacy and speed of light itself. Television, truly the miracle that has put its signature on our century.
Corporate raiders, even out here, probably trying to privatize the past. Gyros took a hit, skewing off course into a later time zone. Back to the future.
In the mid-20th century, multinationals controlled virtually all news, information, and popular culture due to their ownership of the three major broadcasting operations. CBS was bought by Westinghouse, ABC was bought by Disney Corporation, and NBC was bought by RCA's parent company, General Electric.
And at General Electric, progress is our most important product.
Now you'll do exactly as I say.
The UHF TV band, which could have opened up dozens of new TV stations, remain underused and marginalized due to the power of the broadcasting monopolies.
Cable television had begun much the same way as radio had, small ma-and-pa type setups, very much like Howard Armstrong, who went around in his own bus.
Stand by for Captain Video!
The promise of cable TV died swiftly as cable was quickly taken over by the media monopolies.
Cable access was a small bone thrown to the communities by the monopolistic cable operators.
Freedom to the imagination, damn the network. Here's a TV Tesla update.
Newsreel audiences marveled at the stories of the mathematical wizardry of these magic brains.
What about the future? Do you think that this is, do you have any feelings about what direction this is going to go into?
Well, it can mean freedom from drudgery. It can mean increased productivity and better quality, leading to an improved economy. And maybe that implies an improvement in the human condition. I know what I think. How about you?
History repeated itself in the 1990s with what many would call the second coming of Sarnoff, also known as Bill Gates. Like Sarnoff, Bill Gates was the god emperor of computerdom.
When the internet began to expand tremendously, the U.S. government gave control of the publicly funded internet to private corporations.
Computers, which are like the ideal cybernetic device, take on a whole new life once we start linking them up, once you start building them through networks of connections. The ultimate example, of course, is the internet,
which has kept computer sales on the rise. And it's kept the fortunes of people like Bill Gates on the rise, who started out with this company called Microsoft, then proceeded to make the internet his own.
Suddenly we have this great extruded space that is both internal and external, that seems to take on the whole contents of the media culture's memory.
Bill Gates has copyright control of over 18 million images.
What? Outrageous!
Well, these are the invisible wars, for Christ's sake. This is what TV Tesla is driving at.
Instead of two-way interactive communications between users, interactivity was primarily a means of ordering products and submitting credit card information. Like radio, television, and cable, the Internet has become primarily a marketing tool, consisting mainly of virtual malls and online theme parks.
The problem with this now external, now collective imagination is that it is absolutely manipulable by the corporate forces that undergird the reality of power and information.
Any comment, Mr. Gates?
The colossal problem of the corporate colonization of the imagination.
Any comments on your welcome here?
Ironically enough, Bill Gates found himself in partnership with Sarnoff's old NBC, and they formed a new channel called MSNBC, the fusion of two technologies and a fusion of two media, and was also a rehash of the same news from the same sources. Telephone companies began getting involved in cable service. Cable companies began getting involved in phone service, and everybody wanted to be involved in the Internet.
Well, gentlemen, looks like it's a success.
Virtually all media was owned and controlled by a few corporations whose synergy combined manufacturing, banking, services, and media into several of the largest conglomerates in history. Currently, in the year 2007, all forms of media are controlled by one major transnational corporation.
It's the latest portable model.
Hey, it's a teleporter.
Very good, Mark.
I don't get it. It's a teleporter, a time warp machine. It can transport you through time and space. Great.
Let's see, 1978, 77, 1976.
World of high fidelity. Real audio components together in a matched stereo system. A sound that's really sensational. Not the 70s again. I've got to go still farther back.
It's the premature arrival of the future. For those who are unprepared, its effects can be pretty devastating.
You are about to know the thrill of seeing that which has never been seen before.
Dr. Harold?
Thank you.
In color?
You're about to enter a beautiful, exciting, wonderful new world. The world of 1960. For the first time in history, you'll see...
You are there.
1957.
Today, and it's Wednesday, November 20th, 1957.
Missiles, anti-missiles, and electronic devices that might make anti-missiles ineffective. I think I better try that again. Because it's true, it's important, and it's complicated. And all of those things you have to get these days. Those three things are being discussed in the Pentagon in secret meetings.
One of the developments making these new weapons possible is the reduction in size of electronic components like the transistor.
Yes! Finally, I'm there! I found the lost episode!
From the David Sarnoff Research Laboratories of the Radio Corporation of America. I'd like to have you meet him. He's Dr. Schuyler Christian.
Yes, RCA scientists have been conducting research in electronics since 1920.
Now, that is quite interesting, but how does all that work?
You can turn this one off, you can regulate the volume, you can use it in a canoe. Turn the volume up and down. And so, as we enter the era of the electronic brain, which will be built out of transistors, you might well say that we're entering the true era of the transistor.
Well, you certainly...
Where is she?
What do you think it's going to be?
David Sarnoff, chairman of the board of RCA, said science and electronics are moving so fast that in 10 years, even these things will mostly be obsolete.
Oh, I might mention that Miss Amy Hackett, our technician over there, is going to do the same thing on regular scale.
Grandma. But where would she have stored the secret?
The transistorized model is smaller and lighter. Let's turn it on.
To short-circuit the Pulse Project, wish upon a solar flare, brainstorm at hydrogen spin rate, and let the order beware.
Brainstorm at hydrogen spin rate? Could she have meant transmit telekinetic waves precisely at the specific resonant frequency of the hydrogen atoms in the sun's core? That would radically accelerate its thermonuclear fusion process, triggering a colossal coronal mass ejection. That gargantuan glob of piping hot plasma will streak towards Earth's poles at 1,000,000 miles per hour. That could be groovy. But gotta circle back to the sun to set it off. Thrusters, on! Warp speed! Let's rock! Calling TV Tesla. This is Boo Boo with a plan of action. Grandma's little riddle has tipped us to the telekinetic key to kick-starting a solar storm. I'll summon up the ultimate epileptic attack of my life. At the right harmonic, Old Soul will cough up the goods, and 10 billion tons of superheated particles will slam into the Earth's ionosphere, pump up its electrical potential to way past overload. The juice will discharge down into Neo's antennae. Sorry, power surge. They'll perish by their own sword. Give my regards to the Justice League boys. Over and out, Pop.
Seize the time, Boo-Boo.
It's getting pretty hot in here.
Retro. Go. Fido. Go. Guys, go. Control.
And
Down.
control
GNC. Go. Roger. Copy. Surgeon. Go.
Take back the Spectrum.
I'm going in. Into Stardust at last.
Her grandmother would have been proud.
Fascinating television series, Science in Action.
Pandit now closes his treasure chest of musical gems and looks forward to opening it again for you on his next program. If you have a favorite song close to your heart, Corla Pandit will try to include it on one of his future programs if you will please write to him in care of this station.